Is your organization stuck in old conventional ways of organizing things? Maybe you feel that your workplace is producing the same content over and over again. Or perhaps that there's a constant demand for renewal. But after each new project, initiative or reorganization, you end up in roughly the same place. Just with the addition of new words, new PowerPoints, and more consulting hours. Then you need to explore the power of liquidity and volatility. And in this episode, I will investigate how to use methods from traditional alchemy and how to apply them on institutions and companies. And within alchemy, the goal is to discover the substance described as the philosopher's stone, which is the purest possible substance that has many different powers. And one of these powers is to transform base metals into precious metals, and in this way create gold. This pursuit of gold was in previous centuries a practical and hands-on endeavor, searching for means to produce real physical gold. But the main journey was not one of greed. It was rather a mental and spiritual journey in search of clarity. This journey, a form of experimental process, can also be applied in social and organizational contexts, such as within an institution or a company, to create a real otherly position, an organizational structure for a future society that we have yet to imagine. Within alchemy, there's three main principles, symbolized by the three substances of mercury, sulfur, and salt. And today we will delve into the first of these principles, which is mercury. Mercury is a transformative power dealing with liquidity and volatility. Mercury is an imaginative process, liberating elements and substances. And in practical terms, we will make use of events and materials from your workplace that are changeable, temporary, and elusive. If you have something within your organization that needs to be changed, a standard procedure or workflow, for example, but this procedure is perceived to be too solid, and no one really knows how to go about changing it, then the first step is to dissolve it, make it more loose, symbolically transform it into liquid, into gaseous form. One experiment inspired by the principle of mercury would be to stop using titles and job descriptions within the organization. A possible description could just be employee or person, rather than accountant, janitor, HR specialist, lead developer, or receptionist. And this would encourage employees to not identify with their position, go outside of their specialization, and try out new things. And new recruits would be recruited not to perform specific tasks, but rather to a cause. And this might not be a permanent state, but a temporary state, in which normal procedures and the normal ways of dealing with problems can be renegotiated. There are also more hands-on, small-scale experiments in liquefying and vaporizing that can be done with existing materials. Begin with locating an instance or a procedure in your organization that seems to be in an unwanted state of permanency, either because it's perceived to be too solid, or that it's in a permanent state of emergency. And this instance can be represented by, for example, an organizational chart, a job description, or a standardized protocol of some form. Important is that you need to print it and have it on paper. And in this procedure, I will just use an organizational overview of the city of Gothenburg. And then you need something that can heat up and evaporate water. And one standard tool that is commonplace in most workplaces around the globe, it's a standard coffee maker. It's not the perfect tool, but it's a common piece of machinery that everyone knows how to operate. If you have an automated coffee machine at your workplace where the actual brewing process is hidden within the machine, you can instead use other devices, such as a water boiler, for example. But then the procedure has to be changed slightly. And I will now show 3 different and very simple methods using this machine. The first method is to liquefy. And then you simply shred this document into small pieces. Fluff it up. Put all of these pieces in the machine, much like you would do with regular ground coffee. And then you need some water. Maybe here it's, I guess maybe 3 cups is enough. And then you just wait for it to brew. And what you receive is a concoction, a brew that can be consumed together with your co-workers in, for example, a joint tea ceremony. But there are also other ceremonial ways to use this transformed liquid. For example, to carefully wash your hands, or perhaps use it to water the office plants. And the second method is to vaporize. And then you will have another copy of the same document. You just use a small portion of the document. Preferably the most important piece, such as the letterhead or the headline. You will put this little piece of the paper here on the heating pad, together with some water, making sure that the coffee maker is turned on. The water will slowly vaporize, and you and your coworkers can together inhale the fumes of the document. A bit like incense. The third method is to make use of the principle of Mercury's ability to shift between liquid and solid states. An ability that's connected to the shift between life and death, between movement and stagnation. And here we will use water and mist to give life and transformative power to the environment. You just fill up the coffee maker with water. And make sure that you have removed the can, and you can also turn it on. Now, water and mist will fill up the atmosphere, and the flooding and splashing creates a movement of uncertainty, a lively and chaotic experience at the workplace, where normal procedures are temporarily put on suspense. A new life can be breathed into the situation. So feel free to experiment with these simple procedures together with your coworkers. And stay tuned for more alchemical experiments in upcoming episodes.